Hi everyone, happy Wicked Wednesday and welcome to Shivers. With Halloween right on our doorsteps, today we're talking about the history of Halloween, the ritualistic happenings of the past, what each piece of the holiday means, and how it ties into our holiday today. Starting with the pastime meanings of Halloween, we have the pagan meaning. They called it Halloween and it represented the death of the sun season. For the Celtics and Druids, they celebrated a holiday called Samhain, which we mock our Halloween most closely to today. This represented the harvest day and the end of summer, but what they did was sacrifice criminals or unlucky people to the sun god in hope that their harvest season for the next year would be just as bountiful. So they would sacrifice criminals no matter what, but people who were unlucky, they would have them pull straws or pull numbers out of a hat, and if they received an odd number or a short straw, then it was just their time to go, unfortunately. So this meaning and pastime was also the group that was the first to wear masks to disguise themselves from ghosts. They did believe that on October 31st, on Halloween, on Samhain, that the veil was the thinnest between the land of the dead and the land of the living. So rather than getting themselves caught with ghosts, they would disguise themselves and then everybody would look the same. The Scottish meaning behind Halloween, they called it Halloween. They held bonfires for witches, and any child that was born on October 31st, they would kill because they thought that the child was born with powers. And any child that was marked as missing, they would just say that child was taken by fairies and would never be coming back. It was pretty messed up times for the Scottish. So this for them lasted from October 31st in the evening to November 1st in the evening, so a full 24 hours of this madness for the Scottish. And pretty much the only other known origin is the Puritan meaning. This was when they thought that witches would be born or coming to different towns to take people and snatch them, so they banned people from being outside because they feared that the witches would kill them. So, as it stands today, Halloween for us represents the words of Saints' Evening. As a lot of us celebrate, Halloween is the day where the veil is the thinnest between the land of the dead and the land of the living. So, a lot of the traditions of Samhain we still follow today, other than sacrificing criminals and unlucky people. So, one of the things that we still follow today are carrying jack-o'-lanterns and carving jack-o'-lanterns. In the past, they would carve squashes or small turnips with little faces and put candles in them in order to light their way and protect them from evil spirits. The evil spirits would see these faces all lit up and think that they were demons or other spirits that were going to get them, and so they would fly away or walk away, whatever it may be. And so as it stands today, the reason why we use pumpkins is just because that was the easiest squash to carve a face into, and the reason why we don't blow out our candles and shouldn't blow out our candles on Halloween night is in order to keep them lit and keep our protection going. Whether we're carrying a pumpkin or holding a pumpkin or having it outside our house, it's meant as a protection. So for candy itself, the reason why we give out candy was way back in the day a reason to decipher between humans and evil goblins. As much as people believed that the veil was the thinnest between the land of the dead and the land of the living, it was also a belief that there were a lot of creatures that would basically come out of their caves on Halloween night and blend in with humans as well in order to take people or kill people or whatever it may be. So evil goblins were one of these creatures, and goblins themselves supposedly don't like sugar and don't like candy. So giving candy to children, they would say thank you and walk away, and goblins just wouldn't take it. So if you come across someone who doesn't take your candy, they may be a goblin. The other representation for candy is an exchange for prayers. So many people would give a piece of candy or give something that was sweet and sugary in an exchange for asking for a prayer for their family, asking for a prayer for their loved one, whatever that may be. As it stands today, in more recent times in the Great Depression era, there was a real ration on sugar. And so back then they would exchange nuts and coins to children, which is why we have a little bit of a hodgepodge of people, some people getting raisins for Halloween, some people getting candy for Halloween, and some people getting money. It's just a nice mix of all of the traditions coming together. So the colors of Halloween, black and orange, the reason why those colors exist really goes back to that harvest representation. So orange, the color of orange represented the harvest, represented the crops themselves, and black represented the death of the sun. So going back to those originations as well. And the term trick or treat really started a little bit more recently. In 1940s, there was a Peanuts strip considering all of the characters going door to door doing Halloween, and they called it trick or treat. So that's really what stuck from here on out as the term itself. But getting back to the actual origin of trick or treating, it started as people beginning to dress up as ghosts, demons, or other malevolent creatures, performing antics in exchange for food and drink. In Scotland and Ireland, young people took part in a tradition called guising, where they dressed up in costumes and accepted offerings from various households. Rather than pledging to pray for the dead in exchange for candy, they would sing a song or recite a poem, tell a joke, or perform another sort of trick before collecting their treat, which typically consisted of those fruits, nuts, or coins. And in the 1940s, with that Peanut strip coming out, there was also reference to the traditional practice of playing pranks on those who did not give anything to children, calling on Halloween. So, that is a little bit of the history of Halloween itself. As it stands today, the US and England are the only countries that participate in trick-or-treating events. In the Middle Eastern countries, this is a little bit more of a religious and spiritual focus. And in other European countries, they host parades, parties, things of that nature, but don't participate in more of the traditional Halloween events that we see today for ourselves. In Mexico, in particular, they celebrate Dia de los Muertos, or Day of the Dead, on November 1st. And this was a little bit of a twist on Halloween. This is a day where they wanted to remember their loved ones. They believe that the more that you pray for them, the more that you focus on them, the more strong their spirit can be, and that they can come and visit you on November 1st, on Day of the Dead. This is also a day for lost souls to return to wherever they may need to be. So Halloween itself is the day for spirits to roam, and then Day of the Dead is the day for spirits to go to their rightful place, and is a day for spirits to be remembered and families to be remembered. In the Mexican culture, they host different parties for remembering their loved ones. They'll build altars for them of all of their favorite things, and it's just a really nice way of basically remembering them while also welcoming them into your home for that day. A lot of religious people, specifically Catholics and spiritual people, believe that November 1st is also All Saints' Day. So this day is the same thing as Day of the Dead. This is supposedly a day where spirits are going to be sent to their rightful places, and is also a day for them to be specifically remembered. All Souls' Day is on November 1st, and in the past there were bonfires that were made to guide spirits who did not know where their rightful place was. So a lot of great opportunities for sending your loved ones to their rightful home, to remembering them, and to having some fun in the process. So thanks for listening to today's Wicked Wednesday post. And continuing with today's theme, Shivers will be hosting a presentation of horror, history, and ties to spirituality through Solely Holistic's platform tonight from 7:30 till 9 Eastern Standard Time. If you're a fan of Halloween, if you like what we talked about today, if you're someone who just really hates this time of year and hates all things scary, whatever side of the fence you're on, this presentation's for you. It's something different to bring to the table and perfect for Halloween time. This presentation will focus on all things spooky and the history behind certain horror movies, Halloween traditions like we talked about today, and rituals from Salem witches, some rituals which we use today in practical spiritual workings. We'll learn about the ties between horror movies and what their genres truly represent, and how watching certain films can actually serve as emotional releases for you, and practice tools to help you work on empathy. I'll also discuss some of the paranormal and supernatural events, what we see through TV shows like Ghost Hunters or Ghost Adventures, and how these phenomena can be explored through spiritual practices. Lots to discuss, so come join for a night of fun, learning, and some shivers. Thanks everybody, and enjoy your week.